All right, let's talk about the waiver wire. Not the best week, but we're going to help you out anyway on Fantasy Football Today Express. All right, where is the strength in the waiver wire this week, Jamie?
The strength is at tight end, quarterback, and wide receiver.
Oh, yeah, it's everything but running back, which again we like. We like means we don't have the backups playing. That's good. But if you had to pick, where's the position you're probably going to most on the waiver wire this week?
I mean, I play in so many leagues; it's so hard to say. But I would say a tight end. Just because you have a potential top 5 guy in Mike Gesicki, a potential, and then 2 potential top 10 guys on top of that with Hunter Henry and Taysom Hill. When you look at the teams on bye this week, Brock Bowers out, Tucker Kraft out. Who's the third? Oh, David Njoku out. Three top 12 caliber tight ends are missing. And so to find 3 guys that could be available and potentially very good. I mean, Taysom Hill is a wild card, but could maybe lead the Saints in receptions and could also rush for a touchdown, and who knows, maybe throws a pass or 2 with the coaching change. So there's a lot to like about his situation also. So tight end I think is the best spot.
Would you go with Hill over Gesicki in a non or a half PPR league?
Definitely not in half. In non, maybe. I have to see how I have that ranked, but I probably would just lean Gesicki just because he has a chance to touch the ball so much.
If the Cleveland Browns wide receivers are available, and for most people, that's going to be a maybe on Tillman, a maybe on Judy, and a yes on Moore, and they're going into their bye, and their schedule gets tougher. Although honestly, I think they have the Saints coming out of their bye, and I know the Saints they're not that good. I don't think that. I don't
Saints
think
is a game you want to target. The other 2 games, the few games after, they get Pittsburgh twice, they get Denver in there. It's just not easy.
But what do you think about them compared to? I know you like Xavier Legette and Quentin Johnston. Like, what do you think about the Browns wide receivers?
If we're factoring all 3 of them and Legette and Johnston, it would be Tillman 1, Johnston 2, Legette 3, Judy 4, Moore 5.
Got a trade, Jamie. The Cowboys are acquiring Jonathan Mingo and a 7th-round pick for a 4th-round pick. Wow. Giving up a 4th-round pick, that's a lot for Mingo. I hope they are onto something here.
It's probably worth checking. Like, does anybody on the Cowboys staff have ties to Carolina that they worked with him before?
Yeah, maybe. A good little career reset for Jonathan Mingo, who was a 2nd-round pick.
4th-round pick.
That's a lot, right?
I mean, they couldn't get him for a 7th. I would think that's like Adam Thielen territory for a 4th-round pick.
That's wild, man. And especially since their season is.
Are you sure you read that right?
The Cowboys are acquiring Mingo and a 7th-round pick.
Yeah, you did.
For a 4th-round pick, according to Tom Pelissero. We'll talk about the Cowboys in a little bit and just them going forward. But who else do we need to know about? If we need a quarterback this week, where are we looking?
So take a look and see if Matthew Stafford, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert are available. Aaron Rodgers is available in the percentages we talk about. You said it. I don't think it's a layup matchup against the Cardinals, but he's coming off his best game of the season, the first game where we got multiple touchdowns from Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. Schedule is very good moving forward, so like the setup for him. If you're looking long term, you have the next 2 weeks of potentially Trevor Lawrence against the Vikings and the Lions. You got Drake May after this week. Very favorable schedule, but gets the Bears in week 10. That's tough. And for this week, Daniel Jones. I mean, even the long-term schedule is great, but it's no guarantee he'll be the starter. But clearly taking on the Panthers, you hope you get the Bo Nix performance against the Panthers and not the Derek Carr performance against the Panthers. But Daniel Jones coming off of his best game of the season, 28 plus fantasy points. And we know the Panthers are a very good matchup.
Running back is really about handcuffs, but if you're not going to get a handcuff, you take a look at Jaylen Warren and Tyjae Spears, who get work and are also handcuffs. But it's not a great week.
Justice Hill too, in PPR more than non. He does have 8.8 PPR points in 2 of his last 3 games. But yes, Warren 7.8 PPR points in each of his last 2 appearances. Should something happen to Najee Harris, and they just continue to rave about. I don't know, it was Arthur Smith or Mike Tomlin. One of them said best pass protector in the league in Jaylen Warren. Wow. And so, he's going to play a lot, clearly. And then for Spears, he would be, I think, maybe the top of the list if we knew he was healthy. I don't like the fact that he was trending in the right direction, then probably suffered a setback, couldn't go last week, especially in a week where Tony Pollard mispracticed the entire week. But prior to getting hurt in week 6, 10.1 PPR points in the 2 games, prior to that. So there's a path to success, and there's clearly an opportunity to use him while Tony Pollard's healthy.
All right,
I'm sorry, just you mentioned the handcuffs. You got Garendo, who's my favorite just because of the situation in San Francisco. Blake Corum, Kyron Williams is playing 86% of the snaps in each of the last 4 games. A lot of work. Trey Benson with James Conner's track record. Cam Akers with Aaron Jones's injury track record. Kamani Vidal with the setup in Los Angeles for the Chargers. So there's a lot of good handcuffs out there that may be league winners at some point. Roshan Johnson now with Khalil Herbert being traded. By the way, Khalil Herbert now a lottery ticket behind Chase Brown too, that he was traded from the Bears to the Bengals.
Okay, so let's take a break here, and when we come back, we'll go through some wide receivers and some tight ends, but also want to answer your questions. I want to talk about all the news. We have Khalil Herbert, as you mentioned. We've got Dak Prescott likely going on IR, so we'll get into it in a minute. We'll be right back. All right, Jamie, let's talk about wide receivers. Maybe just if you want to just run through it quickly here, your favorite wide receivers to pick up.
You mentioned Cedric Tillman and Juwan Jennings on the previous show. Those 2 guys would be ahead of the bunch. But then you look at Quentin Johnston and Xavier Legette. Both guys, first-round picks. Both guys going to get a lot of opportunities moving forward. We expect an Adam Thielen trade, or should expect an Adam Thielen trade probably at some point in the next few hours. Even if that doesn't happen, though, Legette has scored a touchdown now in 4 of his last 6 games. You'd like to see more targets, but both these guys, I think, have a similar profile. Going to need some touchdowns to help them. Not going to get a lot of volume from a target perspective, but you can make a case that both of their number 1 receivers on their respective teams. Clearly, I would take McConkey over Johnson, but you get the point. They're both going to get a lot of chances here. After that, it's a lot of ifs. Demario Douglas, 9 targets in the last 2 healthy games that both he and Drake May finished. Demarcus Robinson scored 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. Nick Westbrook-Akine has 4 touchdowns in a row, 4 games in a row with a score. Jalen Tolbert, could be the number 1 receiver for the Cowboys. I don't think Jonathan Mingo changes that with the trade, but we know CeeDee Lamb's dealing with the shoulder injury. So there's a lot of interesting receivers at play here. But I think that the prize would be Johnston and Legette and Johnson, however you want to use those guys.
And we like Mike Gesicki this week. If you can pick him up, they have a Thursday game. And if T. Higgins practices on Tuesday, if can't imagine he'd practice in full, but if he practices and he's limited, then you might want to hesitate a little bit with Gesicki. But it's going to be tough for Higgins to play because he was listed as a DMP on Monday and they play on Thursday. So it really does depend on him. If you miss him, you can get Hunter Henry or Taysom Hill. And then there's really these guys are not bad options. They're getting targets. Jonnu Smith, Tavian Sanders, Theo Johnson's kind of harder to trust, but the Panthers give up the most fantasy points to tight ends. So that's who Theo Johnson is playing.
Does Theo Johnson's recent performances impact what Wan'Dale Robinson's negative play has been?
I guess so. And the fact that Slayton before the Neighbors injury was really not involved much at all. And since the Neighbors injury has been sort of involved, so enough to kind of impact Wan'Dale. But the Giants, I think, are really going to try to run the ball like they did against the Commanders. Only this time they're not necessarily going to fall behind. So I don't know.
I like Tracy a lot.
Yes. Yes, I imagine you do. All right, let's answer your questions here. Need to drop one in full PPR. Douglas, Jennings, Deontay, Legette.
One guy was traded to a bad situation for him. Drop Deontay Johnson.
How about, want to hear a crazy stat? Deontay Johnson, when he was on the field, I want to say 12 snaps. Zay Flowers was in on 2 of them. And Bateman was in on 10 of them. I don't know why. They didn't go 3 receivers. They stayed in their 2 receiver sets. They barely played 3 receivers. And when they did, it was, if Johnson was on the field, it was with Bateman. It was not with Flowers. And it wasn't just in a 4th quarter blowout situation either. I thought that was interesting. I really hope that does not continue. Quentin Johnston, Jalen McMillan, Gabe Davis, or Rome Odunze?
To pick up one?
Yeah.
I probably lean Johnston, but it's close with Odunze.
Would you drop Pittman for Demarcus Robinson?
No.
Taysom Hill or Jake Ferguson in PPR?
For looking 1 week, I'd go Taysom.
Would you drop Christian Watson for Sterling Shepard or Quentin Johnston?
I would drop Watson for Johnston easily, and I would probably drop Watson for Shepard if we find out McMillan's going to miss more time.
Is Rodgers a better pickup than Herbert or Darnold?
I'd rather have Darnold. And I could probably be talked into Herbert Just I'll say I'll hedge a little bit here and say Herbert is better than Rodgers because Rodgers still has his bye.
Would you drop Komet and pick up Gesicki rest of season?
I would drop Komet and pick up Gesicki for this week, and then if I can't get Komet back, just play the tight end roulette game.
All right. And drop one. Nick Chubb, Jonathan Brooks, Rashad White.
Wow. It's definitely not White. It's probably Brooks, just with the idea of hopefully Chubb gets better. Chubb has his bye right now. Brooks has his bye coming up, and there's no guarantee that Brooks.
And then he has the Chiefs, and then right after the bye.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. All right. Last one. TJ Hawkinson or Sam Laporta, full PPR.
I'll play the matchup and go with Hawkinson.
All right. We're out of here, folks. Thanks so much. Have a great day. We'll talk to you at 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS Sports Network. See ya.